of the revelations as recited by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam for kids. An inquisitive person could ask, how were the revelations put together in Mecca before he moved to Medina? It was through memorization. The Sahaba, they were memorizing the revelations then, until when the Prophet got to Medina. And this Thabit became one of the Sahaba. He became the confidential secretary. We will put down everything as we're resumed. Brothers and sisters in Islam, in the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we also know that the Prophet is an embodiment of the Quran. He was Quran in action. And in one of his sayings, the Prophet abhorred cheating. Where he said, Mongesana, Farosa Minna. Whoever cheated us is not one of us. He who plagiarizes is ordinarily a cheater. We also heard that in the last sermon of the Prophet before he died, he said, the property of your brother is sacred. You do not have rights on it except it gives to you. And so that brings me to the issue of the intellectual property, which is the nomenclature or the terminology we use today. Whoever invented an idea, whoever invented a material, whoever invented something useful has a copyright. And because it is a matter of knowledge, and that's why we call it intellectual property. It is, of course, like any property you want to have in this world. If you put your ordinary pen on the table and somebody picks it without your permission, there is no shortcut to description of that and you are stolen it. In the same vein, what you put down in writing, what you invent in terms of machines or materials or any articles, whoever has copied you and do not make reference to it as ordinarily stolen your idea. Of course, it is a free world today, and you jump on or you stumble on information in different media for your usage. Yeah, it may be difficult to trace the owner to get permission. You see somebody's wording, somebody's write-ups that are useful, and you begin to write letters to the person. So when you get permission before you can quote, or before you can use the idea, brothers and sisters in Islam, you will agree with me that in the next few months or years, response may not come. And that is why in intellectual arena, you make reference to it. So the source where you get the material. And today, we have different platform online where if somebody checks your online materials today, you will get a notice that somebody has just viewed this material of yours. For those of us that are in academics, will understand what I mean. So because today, it will look more remote for you to want to write to get permission before you use the material. But a simple thing for you to do is to make reference to the source at which you find the material. Of course, there is another question here, which may throw us into a very long debate. And that's a question of who actually originates a particular idea. Is it possible for me and you to trace the original source of a particular idea? Especially in the world today, that most of us feel that, are there new ideas today? Yes, there are. But you will agree that you gather knowledge here, I gather here, I gather there, I gather there, and you form your own opinion. And this is what is happening in the intellectual world. But the major thing is, for anyone to escape from being accused of plagiarism, you simply need to make reference to the source where you found it. In the early Islamic world, not the Sahaba, not the Prophet ﷺ, because he frowned at stealing, he frowned at cheating, and so the Prophet will not do. But the revelations from Allah, the words of Allah in the Quran, and the old books are meant for our guidance. And that is why you will find out that we also always make reference to check Quran 7:158, check Quran 6:152, Quran 17:34, Quran 2:49. So that is telling us that we are making reference to the source, that these verses are not the original wording of Associate Professor Onibo, but that of the Holy Quran. And that is why it is important for us, when we put anything together, we make reference to the source where we found it. The Prophet ﷺ finally encouraged during his lifetime that the Sahaba put down the revelations from Almighty Allah as he recited to them. He also encouraged them to put down in writing. People wrote in tablets, they wrote on stones, they wrote on woods, on several other things that will allow them to put them together in the future. And so the people think plagiarism in Islam does not even exist because there are no copyrights. Of course, there are no copyrights in Quran and Hadith, as we don't own Islamic texts. But we know why we don't hold them. It is because Almighty Allah owns them and the Prophet ﷺ owns them. And that is why we almost always make reference to them when we quote them. The time of the Prophet ﷺ and the early Caliphs, those were the times when honesty, trustworthiness, fidelity, when they were version, when they were in vogue, when they were really in practice, when the Prophet ﷺ was also named Al-Amin before he became the Prophet. And that is why we found out that everything about him was original. Everything about him was originally from Almighty Allah or from his own volition, which he did not lay claim to come from Allah. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Assalamu ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil
alamin. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate the knowledge that you've just fortified us with. We ask Allah to continue to guide you and bless you. Hello, can you hear me, sir?
Hello, I can hear you.
I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, sir? Assalamu alaikum, sir.
I can hear you.
Thank you, sir. We ask Allah to continue to increase you in knowledge, to continue to guide you and bless you with more benefiting knowledge as well. Thank you very much for that. You made it clear to us that the least thing you can do is to reference any document that has helped you to prepare your own document. Any document which you have used, the least you can do is to reference it. You made mention of the fact that our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is an unlettered prophet. Is an unlettered person who happened to be given the blessing of bringing the Holy Quran to us, to the entire mankind. Thank you very much for that. Before we move on, I would like to ask the audience if you have any question for our Associate Professor Nasruddin Onibo. Please, can I ask you to put your hand up? You can raise your hand on the platform, or you can send your question via the chat. Do you have any questions for our Prof? If you have any question, please feel free to put your question out and we can take that on. All right. Please make it brief, within a minute, please, with your question, sir. I have Abdul Taufik Orokon. Can you please unmute yourself and ask your question, sir?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, sir.
Hello, I thought there was a problem somewhere. It's logged me out. Was there anything before I came back? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Please, I just want our associate professor to give us some of the reference from the Quran that he quoted to support his view.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Just let me, wa alaikum salam. Thank you. So you're asking for the reference from the Quran, which our prof cited. Thank you very much for that, sir. Let me take the question of Ms. Bao Mohali. Brother Ms. Bao Mohali, please unmute yourself. Ms. Bao Mohali, please unmute yourself, sir.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, sir.
We highly commend the effort of our professor Onibo. May Allah continue to be with him. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
Thank you. The question goes thus: even if at all there's a sentence word to word of somebody's work, and you now place it in your own without adding your own view, can we view that as plagiarism?
I'm not sure I get your question. I'm not. Could you repeat that, please, sir?
Okay, if that the sentence word to word, and you just move that word done by another author, and you move it to arrange your own work or your own information without make reference to data person, is that committing vow?
So you mean you lifted the sentence word for word into yours?
Yes.
Then
Yes.
Did you say you rearrange the words?
No, not even rearrange at all. You didn't even alter. You adding your own value over it. You just place it and you lifted it the way the author prepared his work.
Okay. Thank you. That is taken. Thank you, sir. Sir, would you like to answer the two questions, sir?
Yes, thank you very much. I think I got a technical problem along the line. I could only hear the last one, who said about arranging the sentence into one's opinion.
The first one is asking you for reference from the Quran which you cited to support your presentation?
Oh, I have Quran 7, 158.
Quran 7, verse 158.
Yes, verse 158. That's where I read, فَآمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ النَّبِيِّ الْأُمِيِّ الَّذِي يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ.
Okay,
That's
thank you,
Quran
sir.
7, yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, you
You're
can
welcome.
proceed to
So
answer second one.
the second question, which is about arranging sentences. Is it that you're saying that you arrange your sentences as the person had it in his own material?
No, basically, the person lifted the document or the sentence from a context, word for word. For example, there's a sentence that wrote, plagiarism is the act of copying someone's notes. And he wrote exactly those words, lifted it, and placed it in his document, exactly word for word like that, without references.
Provided if you put quotation marks and make reference. If you don't do that, that's a blatant act of plagiarism. And that's what we are saying. You are allowed, you borrow ideas from all over the places, but just make reference to it. And that's why in academic world, you say, if you want to define something, for instance, I want to define plagiarism, I say, okay, according to Onike 28 or 2008, you describe plagiarism, this, and that, according to Oliver, so. So you can derive your opinion from even three sources, making reference to their own definition. You can now say, but this writer feels, or this writer opines, or this writer perceives. So that is where your own personality is now coming in the write-up. So that it will not look as if you just copy from everybody's sources and you give it to us. Okay, because in any academic writing, there is also need for your own person to appear there. That's just the secret of academic work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
My senior colleague in the house will shed more light on all these technicalities more than I can do.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate that. We'll need to move on swiftly. We are running out of time. Please, I would appreciate if you can put your question in the chat. We would attend to it. We need to move on because we are really back on time now. We need to move on to our next speaker, who will be speaking with us for the next 20 minutes. That is our Associate Professor Lukman Adedeji. Lukman Adedeji, sir, is an Associate Professor that heads the head of Unit Religious Studies at University of Lagos, Akoka. He is the current chairman of Lagos State branch of Nigeria Teachers of Arabic and Islamic Studies, NATIS. He has served as National Education Secretary and currently the coordinator of Ikoyi Dolphin NASFAT. He was once the project coordinator of Fountain University, and he is now a member of the Board of Trustees of Fountain University in Osogbo. He will be talking on understanding the concepts and categories of plagiarism as practiced by Muslims and other writers. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. I present to you our Associate Professor Lukman Adedeji. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, sir.
Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa bihi nasta'in. I want to thank my colleague, my friend, my brother, Nasruddin Waniba, who has intellectually presented the topic and he has really prepared the ground for me. He has really simplified my job. Once again, I say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The topic before me is understanding the concepts and categories of plagiarism as practiced by Muslims and other writers. Let me begin by tracing the origin of that word, plagiarism. Plagiarism, according to APA 2004, is derived from a Latin word, plagiarius. And plagiarius, according to it, means kidnapper or plunder. In other words, when you call somebody a kidnapper, he has unlawfully taken what does not belong to him. We can say it's theft of someone's idea or language. It is a criminal activity because it's called stealing. In a research conducted by Abdul Rashid Muten, he gave us different ways by which one can involve in plagiarism, the categories of people involving in plagiarism. According to him, which I agree totally, that plagiarism can appear between student and students when you give them assignments and they copy one another, and such is submitted for grading. That's plagiarism. It also involves an academic staff. How does it involve an academic staff? When an academic staff involved tries to steal his colleagues' work, or his colleagues' paper, or his colleagues' words, that is also termed as plagiarism. Also, if a lecturer steals the work of his postgraduate students, not minding the fact that he supervised that project, but if he uses it without making reference to it, despite being the project supervisor, is also termed as a plagiarism because it is the intellectual property of the postgraduate students. Furthermore, if somebody insists that it should be made a co-author and he has not made any input in that paper, it is also called a plagiarism. This is common among the scholars. When you have a paper, you just insert the name of your friend who does not even contribute anything. In terms of the analysis, in terms of literature review, that is also plagiarism. Also, reproducing one's earlier work that has been published before without or with modification. If you have published a paper before, or you have written a paper before and it has been published, and you now want to reproduce that paper, though it is yours, it is also termed as a plagiarism. And this I have a practical experience of that one. I presented a paper in a conference and it was published, solely my paper. And I wanted to resubmit that paper after modification to a journal. It was also discovered to be a plagiarized work. In other words, you can also plagiarize yourself. And also, republishing another person's work is plagiarism. So the category of people involved in plagiarism can be students, it can be lecturer, it can be anybody. Even those of us who write for NASFAT, we can also get involved in plagiarism. So plagiarism is a serious matter in academic circle because it is termed as academic dishonesty. Dishonesty because what does not belong to you, you claim it to be yours. It is also called scientific misconduct. And scientific misconduct, it is a serious crime. No matter how you look at it, it's a serious crime. Brothers and sisters in Islam, when we talk about plagiarism, the International Islamic University in Malaysia has enriched our knowledge in terms of the definition. According to Discipline Rule 2004, plagiarism is termed as any idea or intellectual property expressed in material form, writing, or data of another person, and claim that the work, writing, data, or invention is the result of his or her own findings, is as a result of his own invention, as a result of his own intellectual property. That is the terminology, or that is the description of plagiarism from the International Islamic University in Malaysia. It involves everything in terms of data, in terms of invention, in terms of idea. Once it does not belong to you, you don't have the right to use it. Also, Yale University, 2014, also gave a vivid description of what plagiarism is all about. And according to that document, plagiarism is the use of another person's work, words, or ideas without attribution, which takes three major forms. It takes three major forms according to that Yale University document. The first one is using a source or language of another person without quoting. If you are giving additional information in your own write-up and you are using the same language that has been used by another person, or you are using an expression that has been used by another person, that is number one way of plagiarism. The second is using information from a source without attribution. That's the second one. The third one is paraphrasing a source in a form that stays too close to the original work. In other words, these are the three ways by which we can plagiarize. We may say, no, it's not exact, but it is too close. Once it is too close, what it means is also plagiarism. Looking at Jalaluddin As-Suyuti, who happens to be a prolific writer of the 16th century. The work is quoted in Martin 2014. Jalaluddin As-Suyuti described a plagiarist as a thief, somebody who has taken unlawfully what does not belong to him. In a book titled Al-Farq Bayn al-Musannif wa Sariq, the difference between the original author and a thief. In other words, Jalaluddin As-Suyuti describes somebody who has taken the idea from another person as a thief. And brothers and sisters in Islam, we know the consequence of being a thief from the Islamic point of view. We are coming to that later. But when we talk about the categories of plagiarism, or we say the kinds of plagiarism, Lucas 2004 has given different categories of plagiarism. Number one, he categorized one as global plagiarism. Global plagiarism, in other words, is called word for word. My brother asked a question the other time that if you lift an expression, sentence from another source, and the exact way you have quoted it, you lifted it in your own work, is it a plagiarism? The answer is yes, it is a plagiarism. And that is called global plagiarism. What it means is that where a person takes an entire book or paper or chapter from another source and he passes it to be his own. It may be the whole paper, it may be part of it. That is, once it is quoted word for word, it is called a plagiarism. That's the first category of plagiarism. The second one is called patchwork plagiarism. What is patchwork plagiarism? That is what we've been cut and paste. This is the period of technology. A lot of students, a lot of writers will just cut and paste a particular material from a source, and they want to claim it to be their own. Once it is the idea or words that are not yours, once those are used, definitely they are also termed as plagiarism. The third category is incremental plagiarism. What is incremental plagiarism, brothers in Islam? When a person does not give credit for specific parts of a text that are borrowed from others. That is termed as incremental plagiarism. When we talk about plagiarism, one has to be very careful. Nobody is saying that you should not make use of the opinion, the expression, or the outcome of the researches of others. Oh yes, we are free. But once you make use of them, you need to compensate the person, the original author. How do you compensate? Once you cite it or you reference it, that is allowed. Also, we have the fourth category, which is reverse plagiarism. Reverse plagiarism, where a person attributes his or her own fictitious words to another person. That is also plagiarism. You are the one coining the expression, and you now attribute it to another person. Once that is done, it's also plagiarism. Because you may do that in order to discredit the person. And you say, oh, according to Adedeji, 2021, and such does not emanate from Adedeji. That is also a plagiarism. Also, the fifth one is a self-plagiarism. What it means is that you cannot be an author who has used, he has already published a paper before, like I said earlier, and is also presenting that same idea. Once he's presenting that same idea, which he has used before, whether he has modified it or he has not modified it, is also termed as plagiarism. Brothers and sisters in Islam, when we look at the issue of plagiarism, it is a serious business, like I said the other time. We may now, why does it term as a theft or stealing of another person's property? We all know that to compose an idea, okay, is not an easy task. To write is not an easy task. And if somebody has done that, he is entitled to whatever he has written. If you want to, if you want to claim credit, you have to labor for it. You have to work for it. And I may mention the other time that whoever has taken a portion of what somebody else has done, that person is regarded as a thief. And of course, we all know the consequence of stealing from the Islamic point of view. The Holy Quran, chapter 5, verse 38, says, "Bada a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Wasariq wasariqo faqta'u aydiyahuma." The thief, male or female, whoever has stolen, be it a male or female, what Quran prescribed is cutting of the hand of that person. We are not saying, or I'm not saying that whoever has plagiarized, the hand should be cut. No, there is no sort of Sharia that has given that, and I'm not advocating it. But I'm saying if stealing takes such a big consequence of warranting the cutting off of the hand